Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. Alex, if this is not rock bottom for the Atlanta Braves, I'm really quite not. I'm not. I don't want to know what's next if this isn't rock bottom, right? Like this felt. These last 5 days, it felt as rock bottoms. You lose two in a row. After you're hot. You got some momentum. You've got the lead to 5 games. You've distanced a little bit of space between you and the Mets. You're in the first wild card spot. You're feeling good. Austin Riley is saying, hey, it finally feels like we have some depth to this lineup. The offense looks a little bit better. You know what you're getting out of the pitching staff. Then you lose 2 games to the Marlins, and that's obviously discouraging. But you got a chance to rebound against a Brewers team that you just beat a week ago. And this entire series was uncompetitive. It was bad in all facets. You couldn't pitch. You couldn't hit. You were moving starters back. It was terrible. I mean, Bryce Elder got absolutely whacked around. Charlie Morton doesn't look like he should be pitching anymore. He might need to hang it up in the middle of this season. Even Chris Sale, and then you lose a Chris Sale start, which is like the worst case scenario for the Atlanta Braves right now because they can't get any. But you get blown out 16-7 yesterday, and it was disgusting. And in the first game, you had a pitching player or a position player pitching. So 5 in a row. First time since June of 2022, the Atlanta Braves are out of a postseason spot. Good news is they won 100 games, but the Braves have always been able to flip a switch in the regular season and turn it on. It feels like they tried to do it with the players meeting. It feels like they're trying very, very hard, and they're just out of power. There's no power in this lineup. You see the pitchers, Ronaldo Lopez, Max Fried coming back from injury, Spencer Schwellenbach as pinching starts because they want to coddle him, and it's understandable. You got the future. He's a big piece of the future of this organization. Listen, I understand people aren't going to be happy with that. Spencer Schwellenbach is a huge piece of this organization for the future. If they were going to limit his innings, if they feel like that's going to prevent injury, I get that. Ronaldo Lopez, you can say whatever you want, but it's true.
Yeah, I get. All right. Let's just tackle that. This might be a long segment, but because if you keep spreading yourself thin and trying to be as efficient as possible in terms of trying to be as good for as long as possible, which is what Alex Anthopoulos and Brian Snick are basically doing with the Spencer Schwellenbach news, you're prolonging the height of which you are good. You will never reach the peak, and that might not be this year. But that kind of attitude pisses me off, where it's like, well, we're playing for 2025 and beyond as well as 2024, which is a valiant thing to do, except for the fact that we are playing for our playoff lives. Like, it's not the final series in the season, so I understand that, and there's no time to panic. But that is sending the wrong message to this fan base. I take such an issue with. I get the fact that being a GM is about balancing the now and the future. I can respect the fact that you have to also plan for next year as well as this year. But that kind of stuff, when you consider the circumstances in which the team is in, sends such a bad message to Braves country that bothered me so much that if you continually to just try and be good in terms of like we're just trying to prolong this postseason streak of just as long as you get in, you have a chance instead of trying to maximize a certain. I'd rather not make the postseason for the next decade than not win a World Series. And okay, that didn't make any sense. I'd rather win a World Series and not make the postseason for the next decade than make it every single year and not win one because we're trying to be efficient, trying to spread out, trying to be as good for as long as possible without going all in. I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not what this is. So that's a fine point. I agree with you. Spencer Schwellenbach is a member of this team that
we missed the postseason.
7 years. That's fine. That's fine. I would rather miss the postseason than Spencer Schwellenbach get Tommy John surgery this year. And listen, you can say I don't know
that's crazy.
It's not. And listen, it's not. Listen, you can say that about Chris Sale because Chris Sale only has 1 year left on this team, right? And Chris Sale has done this before, and we've seen Chris Sale go over 200 innings time and time again. And yes, there's some injury risk, and I understand why to this point they've kind of held back. But yeah, it's go time for Chris Sale. I would even put Ronaldo Lopez in that boat too. Like, I understand why they gave him rest because he hasn't gone those innings. But when he comes back, like, it's either go time or move him to another role.
So
Spencer Schwellenbach is a totally different animal.
I'm talking about the entire thing.
Okay, but I was talking about
we're
Spencer
skipping
Schwellenbach.
Chris Sale starts.
Something.
That's fine.
But Spencer Schwellenbach,
we're managing like
I understand.
We've got the division locked up, and we're going to make the postseason.
Spencer Schwellenbach, I understand. Like, if they keep doing this with Chris Sale, you have every right to be pissed off. I understand why they've done it to this point. Hopefully they don't do it again. Ronaldo Lopez, he's obviously on the IL. We'll see what happens with him. Spencer Schwellenbach, I understand, though, because this happens with every young pitcher. You're talking about a guy who just had Tommy John, a guy that's never pitched over 100 innings of his career. Spencer Schwellenbach, and he is, we have high expectations. Like, you don't want to risk that.
That is just the camel that broke the straw's back for me. We're like
the camel that broke the straw.
Yes,
I can't think straight.
I can't think straight.
Often break a straw's back.
I'm just like it was the Bryce Elder pushing Chris Sale back. It's the Ronaldo Lopez. It's this. Like, I can understand. Like I just said, I can understand trying to think long term as well. But it's one thing after another where it's like, what are we doing here? We're just, I mean, the Braves' blood pressure or the heartbeat is as cool as can be. We're flatlining it basically, and everybody in Braves country is going crazy. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they're calm, cool, collected. They know they're going to make the postseason because they're that good. Maybe. It feels like the sky is falling out here. I always make fun of Braves country because I always feel like, oh, the sky is falling, we'll be fine. I always say we're going to be fine. I don't know if we're going to be fine. Like, if we miss the playoffs, this kind of crap is what I'm going to be looking back and being like, we could have used an extra Chris Sale and Spencer Schwellenbach starter too.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I'm with the Braves on Spencer Schwellenbach because I know how important he is in the organization, and you're hoping to keep him healthy for 5-6 years and him really be a big piece of this organization. Chris Sale, it's go time. I mean, Chris Sale, you have him for 1 year. Like, to be honest, like, we should be trying to make them. We don't even know if Chris Sale will be like this next year or how healthy he'll be. This is the healthiest version, best version of Chris Sale he's really been in his entire career, or one of them. And you're sitting here kind of and you're wasting it, right? And if Chris Sale is in form and he doesn't get a postseason start, it's going to feel like we were robbed of something. Yes. So I'm with you on that. And I'm with you on the fact that, yeah, I don't know if we're fine. I mean, I sit up here oftentimes and say, we're all right. I don't know, because this offense is just so egregiously terrible and there's no signs of it turning around because, as we've said time and time again, they didn't make the proper adjustments. Wow. Shocker. Whit Merrifield sucks. Like, he had 2 games.
Yeah.
He had 2 games and people were like, dude, Whit Merrifield's kind of good. It's like, dude, go watch the next 7. Like, wait a little bit, okay? Oh, yeah, now you know he sucks. Adam Duvall, who's been terrible all year, yeah, he sucks. Eddie Rosario, designated for assignment. Ramon Laureano, like, give me a break. Like, all these guys sucked. Like, we all knew they sucked. Like, why were we acting like they might not suck? They've sucked all season long. For wherever team they were playing, they were terrible. DFA'd by the Phillies, by the Nationals, by the Guardians. Adam Duvall should have been DFA'd by the Atlanta Braves. Like, why were we acting like that? We don't have a 110 game sample size and looking at, oh, do you remember last week in June? Adam Duvall had 2 home runs. Like, he could be turning around. No, he's not. And we knew this before the trade deadline. They did make the adjustments, and you're relying on the pitching being perfect, and you kind of feel all these things adding up. Like, Chris Sale hasn't pitched a lot of innings in recent years. Spencer Schwellenbach does need to take some rest. Ronaldo Lopez and Max Fried are coming back from injuries. Like, how perfect can they be? And Charlie Morton looks like he's done. He's cooked. I hate to say it. I love Charlie. He's done great things for the Braves. He's cooked.
I mean, even past that, like Sean Murphy, like getting Travis d'Arnaud going doesn't matter. Like, if we are playing for October, you know who has the higher offensive and defensive ceiling? Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy needs to be playing every single damn game.
Are we sure about that?
See, over the sample sizes of their entire career, absolutely. The underlying metrics suggest that Sean Murphy is much more capable of giving the Braves a higher two-week stretch than Travis d'Arnaud is. There's no doubt about that. On top of that, he's a way better defensive catcher. Travis d'Arnaud is not even close in terms of a defensive catcher. And the fact of the matter is like, if we're actually playing for October, that should be the fact. Like, Sean Murphy is absolutely a better offensive player if given the opportunity.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, you go back and listen, maybe in the past, but you go back to the second half of last year, Sean Murphy has been been absolutely terrible. I mean, you want to talk about Mendoza lines? Sean Murphy's right there. I think he's hitting 201 since the second half of last year, and that's not a small sample size either.
I mean, this year shouldn't be held against him too much, in my opinion, because the oblique injury is certainly playing a factor. And then when he even comes back, the guy can't play 3 games in a row to save his life because for whatever reason.
Well, because Travis d'Arnaud is one of the only players on this team hitting. And it's really no one hits. He probably would be.
So if we're playing for October in some areas with Chris Sale and all these pitchers, and then why aren't we also playing for like Sean Murphy is a better player in all aspects than Travis d'Arnaud as long as he's playing majority of the starts. And Travis d'Arnaud has proven capable of just coming in ice cold and giving the Braves something. Like Travis d'Arnaud is much more capable of coming off the bench in a crazy role and contributing than Sean Murphy is.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how they approach Chris Sale the rest of the way. I think they're going to probably start pitching him once every 5 days. Ronaldo Lopez, I don't know because he is coming off injury, so we'll see how they approach that. Spencer Schwellenbach, obviously they're going to rest him, and hopefully I think they're going to try to save him for September where he can pitch every 5 days. I imagine that's the case, but we'll see where we are. I think the Braves are kind of playing it touch and go, and I think you are seeing them start to think about next year just like maybe a lot of fans should, because frankly this year looks cooked. I mean, there's nothing about this season right now that tells you the Braves can turn it around. But as we always say, baseball is a very, very funny game. A lot of things can happen. Still 50 games left, and hopefully they get some wins.